Hey everybody, I'm Kara. I've been asked to share a little bit about my experience with Juice Plus and the effects that it's had on my depression and anxiety. Some of you may or may not know that I have struggled with depression and anxiety for most of my life. And Juice Plus has really been an amazing product for me because it's led me on this amazing journey to really educate myself about what I put into my body and the effects that it has on me. And it's allowed me to take control of my health in a way that I never knew was possible before. So here's my story. I'm a little nervous, so bear with me. But several years ago, I heard a really good quote, and it was, "In my fleshly tomb, I am buried above ground." And that really resonated with me because that just really summed up my depression in a nutshell. It is like literally walking around like you're buried, like you're dead. You're sad all the time, you don't really know why, or, things trigger it. But it really is it is like living with the world on your shoulders. It is an awful feeling, which is, why I really want to share my story, because if I can help one person not feel like this, I would be so happy. But I've lived basically my whole life with depression, anxiety. It stemmed from issues I've had in my childhood, some abandonment issues. I can remember having suicidal thoughts as early as 7 years old. And eventually you just think about it so often, you just kind of accept it as, well, this is who I am, this is my new normal, so this is never going to change, and you just kind of accept it, and then you live with it and just try and work with it. Growing up, I lived off of fast food and eating out all the time. I ate a lot of processed foods. I never ate anything green, ever. I was like, green? What's that? Ew. So that is what I ate. I ate McDonald's, Burger King, any kind of fast food, you name it, or we were always constantly going out to eat. Occasionally my mom would cook in, but even that was usually a lot of processed foods from the store. I was very thin, so I was always like, oh, I'm pretty healthy, but I'm sure on the inside, obviously my body was screaming for nutritional things because, I was constantly eating to try and fill this need that my body was subconsciously telling me that I had that I didn't realize. But I wasn't gaining weight because I wasn't eating anything of nutritional value at all. Everything kind of came to a head when I was in my teenage years. Didn't really have the ability to kind of cope with things and process things. My parents, following the advice of doctors, put me on all kinds of antidepressants and medications to try and, help me get through that period of my life. The only thing it did was make it worse. I started trying to actually commit suicide, and it got to a point, where I actually did, and here is, a picture I kind of keep of as a reminder. This is me when I wasn't supposed to be here the next day in the hospital. And, I keep that as a reminder because I don't want myself to get back to that point. I begged my parents to take me off this medication because of how it made me feel. I would hide it. I would, not take it consistently like I was supposed to, which I'm sure didn't help it. And, it really just exacerbated the problem because it was putting all kinds of other toxins in my body that these doctors were telling my parents that I needed because, oh, well, my brain's just not making the serotonin it needs, and, this is going to help me, but we don't know the right combination. So they're really playing Russian roulette, with my body, hoping to get the right combination of drugs, and in the meantime, hoping that I wouldn't kill myself. It was, an awful time in my life, but I am not scared to share it anymore because, I think it's stuff that needs to be talked about. I think a lot of doctors these days are just pushing medications, when there's a lot of other alternatives that can be tried first that probably would work better. So, I ended up in the psych ward several times, for that, which also wasn't a very good experience. They're just doctors trying to push more medications on me. This whole time, I felt very stigmatized. I felt very crazy. I tried to hide it because I didn't want people to think, bad of me for having these feelings, that I thought, this is just who I'm going to be for the rest of my life. Drugs and counseling weren't working the way that they should. I felt very defeated. I was kind of accepting of the fact that, there's just something wrong with me. It's a very heavy and exhausting burden to have to carry, trying to act normal, hoping that nobody would see the real me inside. I finally, when I was an adult, took myself off of my medications. I was 21 years old. I weaned myself off of them against my doctor recommendations. It was probably one of the better things that I've done in my life. I did feel better once I got off the medications. However, there was still kind of that general sadness, but I wasn't feeling, suicidal like I used to be when I was a teenager. What finally caused me to really want to change was obviously having my son. I pray to God every night that he does not feel the way that I did, and I wanted to try and find something that would prevent him from going down the same path that I was. And so I just had this sense that I just needed to try and get healthier with our lives, with our whole family. And that is when my cousin actually posted something on Facebook about Juice Plus and how she was starting to get healthier with her family with it. So I, inboxed her and I was like, what are you doing? She, told me about the product and I was like, that sounds really awesome. I love that it's been researched. It sounds like, with the NSF certification that it's, safe to take. And in essence, that it was really just food, which I really loved, that there wasn't anything else added in there that was man-made. So I was like, what the heck, we'll try it. So I will say after the first month of being on it, I was actually starting to crave more fruits and vegetables, which for me was like, whoa. I had my first salad, if you can believe it, ever in my life at the age of 30. So that was a pretty big milestone for me, but it really is true that what your body starts craving what you're eating. So I was filling my body with more fruits and vegetables, and that is what I wanted to eat more. I was actually also starting to notice that I was feeling less sad and depressed, which I obviously loved and my husband was very excited about. I had more energy again. I was not sleeping 10 to 12 hours a day because before this, if I didn't get at least 10 hours of sleep, I was a pretty cranky person, which doesn't make for a happy family. Usually even about 12 hours was pretty normal for me. So I was getting up after 8 hours of sleep feeling actually refreshed and ready for my day, which was very unusual for me. I also started trying to make healthier choices as we were eating out. Instead of going through McDonald's or, something else that wasn't as healthy, I was trying to make healthier choices that way. And then I really started doing a lot of research and educating myself just about the power of whole food and plant-based foods. Because I was like, I already feel this good after like 1 month. I'm like, I can't believe that nobody's ever told me and sat me down and been like, what are you eating? And you need to start eating better. And this is why. Nobody ever really told me the why. Everyone's like, you need to eat green foods. And I'm like, but nobody ever sat down and told me why I need to eat them and the benefits that they could have for me other than, well, it'll just make you healthier. I never would have believed it ever in my entire life. Obviously, it took me 30 years to figure it out. But while I was educating myself and I was reading, one of the books I found, it was probably one of the most valuable things that I feel like I've learned, and that it was that 80 to 90% of serotonin is actually created in your gut. They call your gut your second brain for a reason, and 80 to 90% of that serotonin is actually created in your gut. So when you're not getting the nutrients that you need and all of the good foods that you need to help your body function properly, that's one of the first things that your gut stops producing because it needs to focus on getting rid of other toxins and working on other areas in your body. So, all these doctors and commercials that are telling you, hey, your brain's not producing all the serotonin that you need, let's try and give you a medication for it to help it create that. In reality, your brain isn't the one that makes all of that, it's your gut. So I was getting all of these medications put into my body, which is more toxins, something else my body needs to deal with on top of everything else that was already going on. And it was not having the intended effect that the drug companies thought. So I thought that was probably one of the most valuable pieces of information that I have received, because now that I'm putting the right nutrients in my body's able to start producing that serotonin again because it's doing what it's supposed to be doing, which is fantastic. So after I started learning about all this, I actually started to research about cleansing. And Juice Plus has an awesome cleanse program. It's a cleanse and rejuvenation. It's called the Transform 30. So for 30 days, you try and get as much fruits and vegetables into your system. You take the shakes and obviously the Juice Plus. And I did that for 30 days, and I have never felt so good in my entire life. It was amazing. It was literally like turning on a light switch. I can't even really just put it into words because it's just almost indescribable. I eliminated gluten and dairy from my diet, and I didn't eat any kind of processed foods. So I, fruits, vegetables as much as I could, and then had like one meal. I actually lost 7 pounds, which I know a lot of you are like, oh, you're already skinny. I was still about 13 pounds heavier from before I had my son. The other thing that I noticed was that I was wanting to actually exercise more because I felt so good, and I had loads of energy, so I needed to kind of get rid of that somehow. And another major benefit was that I was headache free. I've also suffered from migraines for most of my life, and I can never figure out what those were from. I learned that from doing my cleanse when I reintroduced dairy and gluten. Eggs, I have an allergy to eggs, which was giving me severe migraines. So now that I know that and I'm able to eliminate that from my diet, I'm able to go without headaches every day, which also makes me a happier person because having a migraine every day does not make you very happy. So that has been another tremendous benefit of the Juice Plus. I have since transitioned our family to a whole foods, plant-based diet after this, after learning about it and experiencing it firsthand. My husband is now doing it and he's starting to experience it as well. I lost the final 6 pounds of my baby weight, basically without even a lot of exercise. I feel the healthiest that I've ever felt. I no longer have the depression and the anxiety that I used to have. I have a lot more confidence, which has, come now that I don't have the anxiety. And, occasionally I'll have like a sad day, but it's not even anything in comparison that it used to be. And it's amazing. I've never lived my life this way before because I've lived my whole entire life basically with depression. So it's basically like I'm a whole new me. I'm actually alive again, and it's amazing. I used to be afraid to tell this story. I used to try and hide it a lot from everybody that I knew. I really love to share it now because I want to save, at least, if I can save somebody from feeling the way that I felt naturally with food, and out putting any kind of chemicals or man-made stuff into their body, or trying to play Russian roulette with your chemicals in your body until they get a right combination. That is my goal, because if somebody would have told me this 20 years ago that I needed to just start eating so I could be happy, I would have saved myself probably a lot of trouble and pain, and only by the grace of God, obviously, my life was spared. So I'm just very thankful that God has led me on this journey, that he has introduced, my cousin has introduced me to Juice Plus, and since then obviously led me to the path that I'm on now. It's literally saved me. I'm reminded of a Harry Potter quote. Let me get my nerd on here. That happiness can be found even in the darkest of times if one only remembers to turn on the light. Juice Plus was definitely my light. And I will remember to turn that light on every day because it has been so beneficial to me. So I hope that my story has somehow helped you. And if you have any questions, I would love to answer them for you. But that is my journey and experience with Juice Plus. Thank you.